podcast where we break down the complexities of speaking English fluently and help you build confidence in your communication skills. I'm your host, Sarah, and today we're diving into something that many English learners struggle with: how to talk fluently. Whether you've been learning English for a few months or several years, fluency can sometimes feel like the most elusive goal. But by the end of this episode, you'll have concrete strategies to help you improve. Now, when we say fluency, what exactly are we talking about? Fluency isn't just about speaking fast or without mistakes. It's about being able to express yourself smoothly, understand others, and hold a conversation with ease. You know that feeling when you're trying to express something, but the words don't come quickly enough, and you get stuck. That's a common frustration, but it's one that you can overcome with practice, patience, and the right approach. So, whether you're preparing for an interview, want to engage in more meaningful conversations, or simply want to sound more natural, this podcast is for you. We'll cover everything from understanding native speakers to building your vocabulary and practicing consistently. What is fluency? Before we dive into tips and strategies, let's start by truly understanding what fluency means. Fluency is often misunderstood. People sometimes think that if they aren't speaking English perfectly, then they aren't fluent. But that's not true at all. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone in your native language. Do you always speak without pausing or making mistakes? Of course not. Even native speakers hesitate, correct themselves, and sometimes struggle to find the right words. The same thing applies to English. Fluency is more about flow. It's the ability to get your point across without breaking the rhythm of the conversation. It's okay to pause and think. It's natural. What you want to avoid is getting stuck in a way that disrupts communication. Think of it like driving a car. You may not always drive perfectly, but as long as you can move forward and stay on the road, you're getting to your destination. For example, let's take a common situation. You're at a coffee shop, and you want to order a drink. You know the vocabulary for what you want, but the person behind the counter speaks quickly. You freeze. This isn't about your English ability. It's about confidence and comfort with the language. You know the words, but fluency means being able to respond naturally even when things don't go as expected. The role of vocabulary in fluency. Now that we've cleared up what fluency is, let's talk about one of the building blocks of fluency: vocabulary. Having a wide vocabulary is like having a well-stocked toolbox. When you have the right words, you can express yourself more easily. But how do you go about building that toolbox? First, let's talk about the importance of context. Learning vocabulary in isolation isn't very effective. You might know the word meticulous, for example, but if you've never seen it used in a sentence, you won't know how to use it yourself. Let me give you a more concrete example. Imagine you're reading an article about someone who is very careful and pays attention to every little detail. The word meticulous might be used to describe that person's work ethic. Now, when you use this word in your own speech, you'll know that it refers to being very careful and thorough. This is far more helpful than just memorizing a list of words. But it's not just about learning new words. It's about practicing them in context. A study once found that people who learned words and sentences remembered 30% more vocabulary after a week than those who learned words in isolation. So, the next time you learn a new word, try using it in a sentence right away. The importance of practice and repetition. Let's move on to practice, which is probably the most crucial part of becoming fluent. It's one thing to know the words, but you need to practice speaking regularly to make those words flow naturally. Now, when I say practice, I don't mean just repeating sentences or phrases. I'm talking about meaningful, consistent practice. One great way to practice is through shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and try to repeat exactly what they say in real time. It forces you to focus not just on the words, but on the rhythm and flow of the language. Let me give you an example of how you might use shadowing in your daily routine. Let's say you're watching a video of a native English speaker on YouTube. Instead of just passively watching, you pause after every sentence and repeat what the person is saying. This exercise helps you mimic the natural speed and intonation of native speakers. Over time, your speech will become more fluid and natural. A study on language learners showed that those who practice speaking for just 30 minutes a day improved their fluency by 40% in 3 months. That's a significant improvement, and it shows the power of consistent practice. Overcoming the fear of making mistakes. One of the biggest barriers to fluency isn't your vocabulary or grammar. It's fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding silly, or fear of being judged by others. But here's the truth. Everyone makes mistakes when learning a language. Even advanced learners stumble from time to time. I've worked with many learners who were afraid to speak because they didn't want to say something wrong. But the truth is, the more you speak, the more confident you'll become. Mistakes are part of the learning process. In fact, they're essential. If you're not making mistakes, you're not challenging yourself enough. Let me share a story of a friend who was learning Spanish. He was terrified of making mistakes, so he would hardly speak in conversations. But once he started pushing past that fear and speaking more, his fluency improved dramatically. He realized that people didn't care if he made mistakes. They were just happy he was trying to communicate. So here's my advice. Embrace your mistakes. See them as opportunities to learn and improve. You'll find that your fluency improves much faster when you stop being afraid of getting things wrong. The power of listening to native speakers. Finally, let's talk about the power of listening. If you want to speak fluently, you have to listen fluently. This means exposing yourself to native speakers as much as possible. The more you listen to how native speakers talk, the more familiar you'll become with the natural flow of the language. I recommend finding a podcast, TV show, or YouTube channel that interests you and listening to it regularly. It doesn't have to be an educational show. Even entertainment works because the goal is to get used to the rhythm and vocabulary of native speech. Take my own YouTube channel, Easy English Talk, as an example. We focus on real conversations and dialogues, so you can hear how English is spoken naturally. Listening to real-life examples helps train your ear to understand faster speech, slang, and idiomatic expressions. This is crucial for fluency because it helps you anticipate what comes next in a conversation. In fact, research has shown that learners who regularly listen to native speakers improve their comprehension and speaking skills by 25% faster than those who don't. Fluency is not an unreachable goal. It's a journey that requires patience, practice, and persistence. By building your vocabulary, practicing consistently, embracing mistakes, and immersing yourself in listening to native speakers, you'll be well on your way to speaking English fluently. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection, it's about progress.
I checked your essay.
Is it bad?
Not bad, but there are some mistakes.
A lot.
Enough to talk about.
Grammar.
Mostly also sentence structure.
I tried to be careful.
I can see that, but you still mix tenses.
Again?
Yes, you switch between past and present.
I don't notice when I write.
That's common, your ideas flow, but the tenses change.
How do I fix it?
Awareness first, then practice.
Can you show me?
Sure, look at this sentence.
Which one?
Here, she goes to the store and bought some bread.
Oh, present and past.
Like she went to the store and bought bread.
Yes, that's past.
Or she goes to the store and buys bread.
Correct, that's present.
I think I mix them because I think in my first language.
That happens a lot.
How do I stop?
Train your brain to think in English.
How?
Read more, write more, speak more.
Sounds hard.
It gets easier.
Are my other sentences wrong too?
Some are fine, others need work.
Can we go over them?
Of course, let's fix them together.
Okay, let's check this sentence.
Which one?
Yesterday, I go to my friend's house and we play video games.
Ogo should be went.
Right, what about we play?
That should be we played.
Exactly, the whole sentence should be in the past.
So it should be, yesterday, I went to my friend's house and we played video games.
Perfect. Now, tell me, why did you write go instead of went?
I don't know, I guess I was thinking about the action, not the time.
That's a common mistake when writing. Always check, are you talking about the past, present, or future?
I'll try to remember.
Good, let's do another one.
Okay.
Here, she was cooking dinner when her phone rings.
Oh, I think I see the problem.
Tell me.
Was cooking is past, but rings is present.
Exactly, how do we fix it?
Maybe she was cooking dinner when her phone rang.
Correct, both verbs need to be in the same tense.
I think I always make this mistake.
That's okay, the more you practice, the better you get.
But when I speak, I don't think about tenses.
That's natural, speech is faster, and people understand from context.
So writing is harder.
In some ways, yes, writing needs more accuracy.
How do I improve?
Read carefully, notice how verbs are used.
What kind of books should I read?
Anything you enjoy, stories, articles, even subtitles in movies.
Subtitles.
Yes, watch a movie in English, but read the subtitles as you listen.
That sounds useful.
It helps a lot. You see correct sentences while hearing natural speech.
I'll try that.
Good, now look at this last sentence.
Oh no, what did I do this time?
Don't worry, you're improving already.
Really?
Yes, let's fix this one, and you'll see.